Hello, I spent 10 hours to try RemoteCompose yesterday, and so in this video, I want to share with you what I found and the state of RemoteCompose. So last year, I read this article of this guy, and at that time, I was excited and excited with the RemoteCompose. However, in according in this article, this guy didn't share any GitHub repository, so I think uh, the RemoteCompose is not ready to try. And of course, in here they introduce the snapshot version. So when the Google release the alpha version for the remote combo, I really want to try. And you can see that they updated this document on just maybe five days ago. And so first of all, I want to introduce a little bit about server driven for some guy who haven't ever worked with it. So normally when we build our app, so for example, we use the Jetpack combo, and here we have a UI, and maybe we can use the Jetpack combo. Of maybe for the iOS, we use Swift UI, and then we fetch data and show the data, that's data on the phone. And the problem with the normal Java Compose is that when we publish the app to the store, uh, for example, when we for a campaign we want to update the UI or change something, it will take us a lot of time, maybe it's, several weeks to update and then to deploy. So a new approach is that we will the idea is that we will build the UI on the server, and whenever the app open, it will fetch the that UI, and then it also fetch the data. This data can be from the database or from the cloud, and then it combine the UI and data together and display it on the phone. So by doing by doing this, we can update the UI easily, and we don't need to wait for the client to update their app. Mm. So in this article, this guy also share the benefits of using server driven UI. And as I know, he is working for revenue cache, and revenue cache already use a server driven in a long time, so it's really worth to read his opinion and the benefit of of server driven in a production app. And in for us in our company, we use server driven UI for our educator. So we use it, the framework we use, the DeepKit. We use DeepKit. We use DeepKit framework, and then that's DeepKit will be we will then after implement the DeepKit by using Python. We use Python in the server side, and then we generate it or render that UI to a JSON file, and then our SDK will fetch this JSON, and DeepKit on the client will pass this JSON and map it into the Android view or iOS view, and then combine it with the data on the go and display it on the screen. The pain points of using DeepKit is that we have to learn the new syntax, and use different language. So for example, you have when we use Python, when we use DeepKit, we have to learn Python. Yeah, of course, maybe you already know Python. However, you need to know the Python DSL for declaring the schema or the UI on the server, and it take times to learn it. And one more thing is that when we mapping from the JSON to a view, it have some performance issue. And one more thing, that's the one of the pain point we have when we work with the DeepKit is that the expression is very complicated. So I hope when Google introduce RemoteCompose, I really want to try it because I hope that it can solve that problem. And one more thing that when according this article, he shared that we can write the sorry the UI on the server side by using the compose Zebra Compose. It's something very similar with a Zebra Compose. So I think if we can use it, it worth to try because we don't need to learn a new thing. For example, for the DeepKit, we have to learn Python. We have to learn Python DSL and work with Python DSL on the server side, and then generate render it to JSON file. And so it's the reason why I really want to try the RemoteCompose. And so the next thing I want to share with you how I try it. So according, maybe I combine this article and the this release of Google. So first of all, I see that they introduce they have a creation DVM library and creation compose, and based on his article, he shared that we can write compose on the server side. So my idea is that I will build a ZVM, Kotlin ZVM project. So in this project, I will have a module. I call it ATUI. In here, I plan to add the remote combo creation. That is just for we allow us to implement composable. I'm not sure at that point. I'm not sure whether how it works. So I just plan it. So I think we can write compose, and at that time I think the RemoteCompose has any solution to map it into a bioarray. Yeah, want to share more. It does for the DeepKit, the framework, we need to render it to JSON. However, for RemoteCompose, their solution is that they render to the UI schema to the bioarray, and then the client RemoteCompose client or remote player on the client side will read that bioarray and render and display and draw it on the screen. And I thought they at that point I thought they have a solution to when we write the screen on the compound, they will have something to allow it to convert into bioarray, and it's for the SEUI module. And I plan to have another module. I call it is a server. So in this module, I plan to use cater for routing. So the idea that's the point I will create some routes. So for example, for the when the UI for UI home will return the by array of home screen, and for the UI splash product or some other screen, it will return the by array for those screens. And I also plan to have a preview module where I plan to use mm, Jetpack no my combo multi-platform for desktop to preview uh, what I implement in Edge UI module. And I try it and I create a project for it and here. So give me 1 second to create it. Okay, I created Edge UI module, and as you can see, Edge UI module is a GVM code name GVM module, and then I follow the guy and will add this this library, and of course we need to add Google repository. Since I think we don't need the creation Android because we are working on a GVM module. And then yeah, when you do the scene, let's try to do the scene. According to this article, we can add composable. So the problem is that composable is just for the compose multi-platform, or it's for the Android. So it means that we cannot add composable for a GVM module. And one more thing, that when I search for this creation on the Maven repository, and as you can see that RemoteCompose creation is a package as a AAR file. It means that it's just for mobile and Android. It means that we cannot use it in a GVM module. Yeah, so this idea to try with a GVM project is a fail, and I come with another idea is that I will create an Android project, and will create an HUI module as a Android library. With inside an Android library, we can as compose, and we can write write a screen as a composable. Yeah, it's very good, right? And we'll implement a server. I just think about it. I'm not sure. So then this server still use cater for routing, and will some other module for the app and normal Android modules. So the when I check his document, his article, I see that to when we have a screen, to convert that screen, that's composable screen, to the byte array, we need to call this function cap remote document. And of course this article is out of date when we check the repository of RemoteCompose, they we can see the new version for the function that help us to convert a screen to byte array. Here the source for capture single remote document. So this article is a use outdated function, I think. So when I search on the GitHub of that repo, I saw that the function require a context, an instance of context, and it the Android context in here. So with this approach, I I have no idea how when we, so for example, when we on the server module in here, when we need to call a capture function. However, the problem is that where the Android context come from, and how we pass it into this function. I have no idea, and I think they at this point uh Google and Android Google just try is just trying to 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 build this project and try it for the Android, and maybe when they test it they have another way to pass the contact Android contact in for the this function. So I cannot, so in here I conclude that I cannot use the compose on the server side. And then the idea is that when I check the source, I see that they also use a lower level function. It means that they use code in DSL on GVM. So it means that we can build a GVM one against, maybe we can build the GVM project. And the idea is that GVM project, and we still have a SDUI module. And in here, instead of using Composable, we use the DHLs, the lower level for building UI, and try to, after building the screen in here, we're trying to convert it to byte array and use it in the server module with a cater. And to try it, I create a project with the SDUI SDUI module, and in here I create some function. So for example, for this function, I call it is a view home screen, and it should return on byte array. And after reading the source code, I see that we can use a recording remote compose buffer. And then I try several way to try to add some just a text by with that buffer and return that buffer. However, it return 0. So after research it and try it several times, I see that I use this in the wrong way. And then I try, after checking the the document on GitHub repository. You have several. They introduce some several guys in here, and creation demo guide, and they share something in Java, and I want to try it on in Kotlin, and I create this one and try to create a writer. So at this time I try with the RemoteCompose writer, and then finally I call this function. When I run this with cater with this function UI home, I see that this route returns a byte array. However, when I implement the Android app, I cannot see it on the screen. So I try to another thing. to try to view whole screen with this thing, and I try to start by start a canvas. It's a lower level and try to draw a text. However, the result is the same. The server still return a binary, however, cannot display it on the screen. Maybe at this point in here, I code this function in the wrong way, and I also create a uh, Java version for it for trying this code. However, nothing works for me. So I concluded that RemoteCompose at this point is not ready. It's not ready. It's not ready for us to try. And maybe and you can see that there are a lot of function now is restricted just for the library internal. So you can see in here they restrict to library group. So there's no way for us to try outside on our project, and I concluded that it's not the time to try it with our project, or if we want to try, we need to clone their project. And from what I read, I can see that the plan of RemoteCompose is that they will allow us to uh, write server driven with composable on the server and the server. And I thought they use the JVM module for it, and then we can use a server for routing, and convert this composable to binary. And with the each plan, I thought they will use a combo multiple platform. Maybe they will build the RemoteCompose client, compose remote, and they call it the RemoteCompose player. On for that support compose multiple platform, and that can read binary and display it on the screen. So it's the future of RemoteCompose. And with I might try. I hope that you can understand about the status of this project, and hope that you don't need to waste your time to try it now. Thank you for watching.